Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're kicking off something we're calling Exposing the Truth in the Digital Evidence. And if you're a student over at Dr. Sam Pack College of Business, maybe you're in Management Information Systems, IT, or Computer Information Systems. Especially, if you're focused on computer forensics, well, this deep dive is definitely for you. But honestly, any college student, any working professional who's interested in digital forensics, you are absolutely in the right place. Our mission today really is to help you get a handle on the key ideas from Chapter 12 of the Guide to Computer Forensics and Investigation, 6th edition. That's the one by Nelson and Stewart. We're focusing on mobile device forensics and this huge growing area, the Internet of Anything. And here's why it matters right now. You, like pretty much everyone, carry this incredibly powerful computer right in your pocket every day. But do you ever really stop and think about the sheer amount of personal data it holds? Or, the security implications, the forensic implications. It's not just about what's on your phone. It's about what your phone knows. And why investigating it is, well, one of the toughest but most critical jobs in digital forensics today. So stick with us. We're going to uncover some really fascinating stuff. Oh, and hey, before we really jump in, if you find this useful, please hit like, subscribe, follow us, maybe share it, and definitely leave a comment. It really helps us make more of these deep dives.
Okay, so let's unpack that first part. That powerful computer in your pocket, your phone, it's amazing how much personal info is just there, often not very secure either. What makes these devices such a gold mine for investigators?
It really is the sheer breadth and depth of the information. It's way beyond what most people even think about. We're not just talking, your contacts list. Think about it. Every single call, incoming, outgoing, missed, it's logged. Every text message, SMS, MMS, they're stored. Your email accounts, your IM logs, every web page you've looked at, pictures, videos, music files.
Right, and it gets even deeper, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Tracking our lives in ways we don't even consciously realize sometimes.
Exactly. Your calendars, your address books, all that social media account info, critical GPS location data, voice recordings, even your voicemail messages. But here's where it gets, really significant these days. Bank account logins, even access to your smart home systems. It's all potentially on there. And this huge amount of personal data makes investigating smartphones and really any mobile device uniquely challenging.
Yeah.
It is definitely not like those quick click and you're in scenes on TV shows. In reality, you have to follow really strict forensic procedures. Right. Every step matters to make sure that evidence holds up, that it's admissible. That's the real deal in digital forensics.
And that complexity you mentioned, part of that comes from just how fast mobile tech has changed, right? I mean, it wasn't that long ago. A mobile phone pretty much just made calls. Maybe we can trace that path a bit. Understanding the history helps understand the challenges now.
Absolutely. The progress has been, incredible, especially just in the last decade or so. We started historically with analog phones. Then came digital PCS, personal communication service, then 3G, third generation networks. That was big because you could download data while moving, a major leap. And now we're well into 4G, fourth generation, much better speeds, more capabilities.
And looking forward, 5G is already rolling out, changing how everything connects. What's different there?
Well, 5G, fifth generation networks, they really started getting finalized around 2020. They're bringing in emerging tech like much bigger cloud services, even device-to-device networks. It fundamentally changes how data moves around. Mm-hmm. And just to give you a sense of the tech underneath, 4G networks, they can use things like orthogonal frequency division, multiplexing, mobile WiMAX, UMB, MAMO, LTE, lots of acronyms.
Right.
And for basic cell communication to even work, you need 3 key parts. The base transceiver station, or BTS, the base station controller, BSC, and the mobile switching center, MSC. What's really interesting forensically is that each of these technologies, each part, leaves its own digital trail. Understanding them helps investigators piece together network activity.
Yeah.
Like pinpointing where a device was using cell tower connections. That's pretty fundamental.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about all those moving parts just for simple call or text now. What about inside the actual device, the hardware, the software?
Well, mobile devices, they cover a huge range, from really simple feature phones up to these complex smartphones. At the core, you usually find a microprocessor, some ROM, RAM, a digital signal processor, the radio module for talking to the network, microphone, speaker, hardware interfaces, and the screen, the LCD display. Basic phones often run their own proprietary operating systems, but smartphones, they use OSs much more like a PC Android iOS. Now, system data on these phones is often stored in what's called EEPROM, electronically erasable, programmable, read-only memory. And this is really key for forensics. EEPROM lets service providers reprogram the phone without physically touching the memory chips.
So data could be changed remotely.
Potentially, yes. It means some data might not be physically burned onto a chip like you'd think with an old hard drive. The OS itself, though, that's usually a non-volatile ROM. We also saw PDAs, personal digital assistants, kind of shift into niche markets like medicine or industry. They often used memory cards, compact flash, multimedia cards, secure digital. All potential evidence sources, too.
Okay, let's dive a bit deeper. The SIM card, the subscriber identity module, tiny little chip, but it sounds like it holds a lot of critical info, kind of like a digital ID card.
Exactly. They're like a miniature digital passport. You usually find them in GSM, Global System for Mobile Communications devices, and they're essentially tiny computers themselves. They have a microprocessor, internal memory. In GSM networks, the phone is called a mobile station, and it's kind of divided into two parts. The SIM card and the mobile equipment, the ME, that's the actual phone hardware. That separation is really important forensically.
So it's not just about connecting to the network. What else makes SIM so important in an investigation?
Well, their versatility is key. They do a few things. They identify you, the subscriber to the network. They store service-related info. And they can act as a backup for certain user data, like contacts. They come in 3 main sizes now. And what makes them so valuable forensically is that the information is portable. You can usually pop a SIM out of one phone, put it in another, and your identity, your service, it follows the card. Now, historically, older CDMA phones, code division multiple access, they didn't use SIMs. That functionality was built into the phone itself. But newer TDMA phones, time division multiple access in North America, they do use SIMs, although sometimes they're sealed inside. And from a forensic standpoint, you need to know the file system on a SIM card is hierarchical. Think of it like nested folders on your computer.
Yeah.
Data is organized in specific layers. Knowing that structure helps you find and extract things properly.
That's a great overview of what's in these devices.
Yeah.
So now, the really crucial part for anyone learning forensics. How do you actually get the data out? Especially with all these challenges, it's definitely not just plugging in a USB stick.
Oh, far from it.
Yeah.
The main worries with getting data off a mobile device are immediate and they're critical. First, losing power. All mobile devices have volatile memory, RAM. If the power cuts out, that data is gone instantly, and it can be vital.
Yeah.
Second, syncing with the cloud. Devices are constantly backing up, syncing emails, photos that can change or overwrite evidence right while you're looking at it. And third, there's always the risk of a remote wipe. The owner, or someone else, could erase the data from afar. So preventing power loss is job number 1 if you want that RAM data. Your first move, if you find a phone plugged into a computer with a USB cable, disconnect it immediately. Stops potential syncing or wiping.
And the timing matters too, right? When you actually seize the device, especially with data changing all the time.
Absolutely it does. Depending on the legal authority, the exact time of seizure can be critical for building timelines. Another vital step. Isolate the device from signals. You have to stop new messages, calls, any data coming in after seizure that could contaminate the evidence. Options. Airplane mode is one. Putting it in a paint can, believe it or not, often works quite well to block signals. Or use a proper Faraday bag, which is designed for this. Turning the device off is also an option, but again, you risk losing that volatile RAM data.
Seems like a tricky balance.
It is. And the downside to isolated methods like airplane mode or Faraday bags is they can sometimes force the phone into roaming mode, and that actually drains the battery faster. So you're back to worrying about power loss. It's a constant tightrope walk.
Okay, so you've got the device, it's isolated, hopefully powered. What happens back in the forensics lab? How do you pull out the truth?
Right. Back in the lab, you need a system. You check 4 main places. First, the internal memory of the phone itself. Second, the SIM card. Third, any removable memory cards, like an SD card. And fourth, sometimes, the network provider servers. But remember, accessing provider servers, that always needs a search warrant or subpoena. Wiretap laws are very strict there.
Getcha. Legal hurdles.
Definitely. Now, from the SIM card, you can typically pull 4 kinds of info, service data, like the SIM and subscriber IDs. Call data, numbers dialed, call times, message info, and location info, often linked to which cell towers it connected to. Oh, and one more thing on acquisition. If the phone has lost power at some point, you might need PINs or passcodes to get into encrypted files. Another reason keeping it powered on is so important, adds another layer of difficulty.
Wow. Okay, so forensic science is always changing, but it sounds like mobile forensics is changing faster than almost anything else with all the different phones coming out. What actual tools and techniques do investigators use to deal with all this variety?
You're absolutely right. Mobile forensics is constantly evolving. And honestly, the biggest challenge is just keeping up with all the different models of phones. There's no one magic tool. Generally, the process involves, first, carefully identifying the device, exact make, model. That tells you which tools might work. Then you make sure you have the right software for that device installed on your forensic computer. Next, connect the phone to power, use the correct cables. Then you start up the forensic software and begin the download process, pulling off the available information.
And for those little SIM cards we talked about, how do you get data off those specifically?
For SIMs, you use a dedicated SIM card reader. It's a piece of hardware and software combined, designed just to access the SIM's data. And it's really vital you do this in a proper lab environment with anti-static precautions. You don't want static electricity frying the evidence.
Right. Static is bad.
Very bad. The basic steps are: carefully take off the phone's back panel, remove the battery, gently take the SIM card out of its holder, and then put the SIM into the reader. Now, there are lots of SIM readers out there. You absolutely must make sure the one you use is forensically sound.
Forensically sound, what does that mean exactly?
It means the tool acquires data without changing, damaging, or compromising the original evidence in any way. This is absolutely critical. If the tool alters the data, the evidence might be inadmissible in court. It has to stand up to scrutiny.
And documenting everything, especially things like unread messages, seems super important too.
Oh, absolutely critical. Documenting messages that haven't been opened yet maintains the integrity of that evidence. Using a tool that can actually take pictures of each screen can be really helpful there. You know, NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, they've outlined 6 main ways to get data off mobile devices. It ranges from pretty basic to highly technical. There's manual extraction, logical extraction, physical extraction, then hex dumping and JTAG extraction, chip-off, where you physically remove the memory chip, which is pretty invasive, and micro-read. Each method has its use depending on the phone and what you need.
That's quite a range of techniques. What about specific software tools investigators might use every day?
Yeah, some well-known mobile forensic tools include things like Parabin software, BitPim, the Celebrate UFED system, Mobile Edit Forensic. There are quite a few. But it's really important to understand these tools aren't all the same. They differ a lot in what they show you and how much detail they provide. And some tools are actually designed more for updating files on a phone, not necessarily for pure forensic data retrieval, so investigators have to be careful about the tool they choose.
So you need to know your tools inside and out.
Exactly. There's a key piece of advice here from the source material, really for anyone getting into forensics. Every program has its quirks, its limitations. You have to know the shortcomings of your tools. And document every single thing you do during the investigation. For example, tools like Celebrate, they're powerful, sure, but real forensic insight isn't just seeing the report. It's understanding what the tool might have missed. Maybe it didn't parse deleted data well or couldn't handle a specific app's data structure. A good examiner always digs deeper. Celebrate, though, is very widely used, especially by law enforcement. It's good for identifying the phone, figuring out connection needs, and then pulling data. You can also just connect a phone directly to a computer via USB using a write blocker to prevent changes and browse the file system. It's not ideal for deep dives, but you can grab some basic files that way. Might not always be forensically sound for court, though, depending on the specifics.
Okay, so looking ahead, what does all this mean for the future? Especially with everything getting connected. We're not just talking phones now, right? This Internet of Anything, or IoA.
Yeah, this is really the next frontier. And it's a massive challenge. We've got this growing problem where sensitive data isn't just on your phone anymore. It's spread across tons of interconnected systems. The Internet of Things, IoT, your smart thermostat, doorbell camera, fridge, maybe that already adds huge complications to mobile forensics.
An Internet of Things is just the start, isn't it? It seems to be expanding into almost everything.
It really is. We've seen this evolution. Internet of Things, IoT, then Internet of Everything, IoE, and now this broader term, the Internet of Anything, IoA. The IoA is going to include even more 5G smart devices as those networks keep rolling out. Right now, 5G has kind of 3 main categories: eMBB, Enhanced Mobile Broadband, URLLC, Ultra-Reliable and Low Latency Communications, and MMTC, Massive Machine-Type Communications.
Okay, more acronyms. But how do those categories create forensic challenges?
Well, think about it. eMBB means huge amounts of data challenges for storage, processing. URLLC is about real-time, super low-latency stuff data might only exist for a split second, making it incredibly hard to capture. And MMTC, That's potentially billions of simple devices connected a vastly bigger number of places to look for evidence. Plus, we're already seeing specific problems with newer types of devices: wearable computers, smartwatches, fitness trackers. They're tracking not just steps, but heart rate, sleep, location biometrics, all syncing to the cloud somewhere.
Right.
And then you have cars. Vehicle systems forensics is a whole new emerging field. Cars are basically rolling computers now, collecting tons of data. The digital footprint is just exploding. Investigators have to be ready for that complexity.
Wow. What a deep dive indeed into this really fascinating, really complex world of mobile device forensics and this ever-expanding Internet of Anything. We've covered so much, from all the data hiding on your phone to the very careful steps investigators need to take, and even looked at what's coming next with all these connected devices. That's a lot to think about.
It really is, and it underscores that critical point. Methodical procedures, constant learning, they are absolutely essential in this field. It changes so fast. Knowledge isn't just about knowing what might be on a device. It's about knowing how to ethically, effectively, and defensively get it out while ensuring its integrity. That's how you truly expose the truth in the digital evidence. And to all you Dr. Sam Pack College of Business students listening, and really anyone else passionate about computer forensics, we genuinely hope this deep dive gave you some valuable insights, maybe spark some more curiosity.
Definitely. So before we wrap up, we want to hear from you, our listeners, thinking about how fast mobile devices have evolved and this explosion of the Internet of Anything. What emerging technology do you think will be the next huge challenge for digital forensics? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And thank you so much for joining us on Exposing the Truth in the Digital Evidence. If this was valuable for you, please do us a favor. Like, subscribe, follow, share it with people you know. Your engagement really does help us create more content like this. And here's something to think about until next time. As our homes, our cars, even our bodies get smarter, what parts of our daily digital lives, maybe things we don't even think about now, are quietly creating tomorrow's biggest, most complex forensic puzzles? Definitely something to mull over. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.